Emerson Ward never thought hauling a dresser up 3 flights of stairs would change his life, but then again, he'd never met Savannah Whitlow before. "Careful with that corner," Savannah called out from the top of the stairwell, her voice echoing down with a mix of urgency and apology. "I got it," Emerson grunted, sweat dripping down the back of his neck as he adjusted his grip on the heavy antique. His 6-year-old daughter, Finley, sat on the bottom step with a juice box, swinging her legs, offering moral support the only way a first grader could. "I still feel bad," Savannah said, stepping down to help guide the dresser. "I should have rented movers." Emerson paused, studying her. She wore a loose white t-shirt tucked into black jeans, her dark hair pulled into a low bun, no makeup, not even earrings. She looked normal. "And that made it easier to breathe," I offered, he said simply, managing a tired grin. "Besides, you saved me from another boring Saturday teaching Finley math." Finley perked up. "I like math," Emerson chuckled. "See, she's not normal." Savannah laughed, then really laughed. It was warm, unfiltered, and it bounced off the narrow stairwell walls. "You two are something else." They finally wrestled the dresser into her apartment, a bright, modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows, minimal furniture, and walls still bare. "You just move in?" Emerson asked, wiping his hands on his jeans. She nodded. "2 days ago, haven't had time to decorate. Too busy with work." Savannah hesitated. "Yeah, something like that." Emerson didn't pry, he never did. He'd learned the hard way that people carry things they don't say out loud. Like how he didn't bring up that he was doing odd jobs just to keep Finley in a decent school. Or how his ex had left them 2 years ago without a goodbye. "Want some water?" Savannah offered. "You don't have to, I insist," she said, already heading to the kitchen. Finley wandered in, eyeing the apartment. "It smells fancy." Savannah laughed again as she handed Emerson a cold bottle. "Must be the overpriced candles I haven't opened yet." "Do you live here alone?" Finley asked bluntly. "Finn," Emerson warned gently. "It's okay," Savannah said, crouching to Finley's level. "Yes, I live alone, but I like company." "Good." "My dad doesn't have many friends." "Finley," Emerson blurted, embarrassed. Savannah's eyes softened. "Well, maybe that'll change." She stood, brushing her hands on her jeans. "Let me take you both out to dinner, as a thank you." "You don't have to do that," Emerson said quickly. "Really? I want to." Her eyes caught his. "You helped me. Let me return the favor." He hesitated. He hadn't been on a date, if that's what this was, in years. But Finley was already nodding like her life depended on it. "Can we go to that place with the twirly pasta?" "The one with the blue cups?" she asked. Savannah smiled. "She means Levento. I know the chef." Emerson blinked. That place was 10 times out of his budget. "You know the chef?" Savannah nodded, casual. "Old friend." He didn't push it, but something in her confidence made him pause. She didn't just know the chef. She probably owned half the building. Later that night, as they stepped into Levento, all glowing chandeliers, white tablecloths, and violin music, Emerson felt wildly out of place. His button-down was 2 years old. His shoes were scuffed. Finley had spaghetti sauce on her face before the appetizers arrived, but Savannah didn't seem to notice. She sat across from him, sipping wine, telling Finley stories that made her giggle, and every now and then her eyes would drift to Emerson and linger. "This is the nicest dinner I've had in a long time," he said quietly, watching Finley twirl her fork. "I'm glad," Savannah replied, her voice softer now. "It's nice, having people around." He tilted his head. "You don't?" she shrugged. "Comes with the job, I guess." "What do you do?" Another pause, then she smiled. "Let's call it management." "So mysterious," he teased, "only a little." They walked out under a sky full of stars. Emerson carried Finley, who'd fallen asleep mid-dessert, her head on his shoulder. Savannah walked beside him, close enough that their arms brushed. "Thank you," she said after a moment. "I should be thanking you." She stopped walking and he turned to face her. "I like this," she said softly. "You, Finley, dinner that doesn't feel like a performance." He blinked. "You think I'm not performing?" she laughed. "You're too honest. It's kind of refreshing." There was a beat of silence. Then Savannah reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind his ear. It was the smallest touch, but it sent something electric down his spine. "Good night, Emerson." "Good night, Savannah." He watched her walk into her building, the golden lobby light catching her face just before the door closed. He stood there for a long minute, holding his daughter, heart beating like it hadn't in years. He didn't know her last name. He didn't know she was a CEO, and he definitely didn't know she was already falling in love. Savannah didn't usually wake up before dawn. But that morning, the sun wasn't what stirred her, it was the memory of Emerson's laugh. It had caught her off guard the night before, rough and real, like he hadn't done it in a long time. She lay still in bed, staring at the ceiling of her penthouse apartment, wondering when a man's laugh had last echoed in her mind for this long. Across town, Emerson was lacing Finley's sneakers. She wriggled her foot impatiently. "We're going to be late," she said through a mouthful of cereal. "Well, if you'd stop kicking while I'm tying, I'm not kicking. I'm moving with enthusiasm." He stood, brushing toast crumbs off his flannel shirt. "You're 6, not a tornado." Finley grinned, hopping off the chair and grabbing her backpack. "Do I get to see the lady again?" Emerson paused, pretending to check his phone. "Savannah, probably not. She's got important things to do." She said she liked company. He looked at his daughter. "Yeah, she did." Later that afternoon, Emerson stood outside a job site, holding a clipboard and trying to ignore the fact that his boots were soaked through. He worked maintenance now, part-time contract work for a property group he didn't ask questions about. The hours were long, the pay barely enough, but it kept him and Finley afloat. "You Emerson," a voice called from behind. He turned to see a man in a pressed gray coat holding a leather portfolio. "Yeah," the man extended a hand. "Wesley Vaughn, Miss Whitlow's assistant." Emerson blinked. "Miss Whitlow?" "Savannah. She asked me to deliver this." He handed over a thick envelope. Emerson opened it, frowning at the contents. Inside was a formal invitation on heavy cardstock embossed with gold lettering. A charity gala, black tie, hosted by Whitlow International. "I think there's been a mistake," Emerson said, glancing up. "No mistake," Wesley said. "She insisted. There's also a gift card for a suit rental. She wanted to ensure you'd be comfortable." "I can't go to something like this." Wesley smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You might want to reconsider. She doesn't extend invitations lightly." Emerson watched the man walk away, then looked back down at the invitation. The name hit him like a punch. Whitlow International. He'd seen it on skyscrapers, in news articles, on the side of shipping containers. Savannah Whitlow. He stood still for a long moment, the wind biting through his jacket. That night, he sat on the couch after putting Finley to bed, the invitation on the coffee table. He picked it up again, tracing the edges. He didn't know what bothered him more, that she hadn't told him who she was, or that he hadn't guessed. The next evening, he stood in front of a mirror wearing a rented tuxedo that felt like it had been made for someone taller and richer. Finley sat on the edge of the tub, braiding the fringe of a towel. "Your shoes are shiny," she said, "and your hair smells like the stuff I use. You helped me pick it." She gave a satisfied nod. "Are you nervous?" He adjusted his cuff. "A little, don't be." "You're good at talking." He looked at her in the mirror. "You think so?" "Yeah, you say things that make people feel warm, like soup." He laughed, pulling her into a hug. "You're the best person I know. Are you gonna kiss her?" Finley. "What? That's what happens in movies. Fancy party. Girl in a dress, guy in a suit, kiss." "I'm just going to say thank you." Finley wasn't convinced, but she let it go. When Emerson arrived at the gala, he wasn't prepared for how overwhelming it would be. The ballroom was massive, with glass walls overlooking the skyline. Waiters in white gloves moved silently between crystal chandeliers and tables adorned with orchids and gold-rimmed plates. He scanned the room, unsure if he should stay. Then he saw her. Savannah stood near a marble staircase, dressed in navy. Her hair was down, falling in soft waves around her shoulders. She was speaking to a man in a velvet blazer, but her eyes flicked up and locked on Emerson. She excused herself and crossed the room in quick strides. "You came," she said, stopping in front of him. "I wasn't sure if I should. I was hoping you would." He looked around. "You run this." "Yes. You didn't mention that." "I didn't think it mattered." "It might have," she frowned. "I didn't lie, I know." They stood in silence for a beat, the hum of the party around them. "I didn't want to scare you off," she said finally. "People act different when they know. You think I would've?" "I wasn't sure, but I didn't want to risk it." He studied her. "You don't trust easily, neither do you." He nodded once. "Fair," she exhaled, a small breath of relief. "Come with me." He followed her through a side door into a quieter room with wide windows and soft lighting. Outside, the city glittered. "I didn't bring you here to impress you," she said. "I brought you here because I wanted you to see who I really am." He turned to her. "You're not this room. No, but it's part of my life, and I want you to be able to step into it without feeling like you don't belong. You make it sound easy. It's not, but I'm trying." He looked out at the skyline, then back at her. "Why me?" She hesitated, then said, "Because you look at me like I'm just a person, not a name, not a headline, just me." He stepped closer. "Is that what you want, more than anything?" He reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. She didn't move away. "You still owe me dinner," he said. She smiled. "I believe I already paid. That was for the dresser." "Then let's call this even." He leaned in, and this time she met him halfway. The kiss was soft, unhurried, and when they pulled apart, neither of them spoke. Outside, the city kept moving. But for them, something had stopped. Or maybe, finally, something had started. Emerson didn't expect to see Savannah again so soon, but 3 days after the gala, she showed up outside Finley's school just as he was locking his bike to the rack. He blinked at the sight of her stepping out of a sleek black car, wearing a caramel-colored coat belted at the waist and ankle boots that probably cost more than his rent. "I hope I'm not overstepping," she said, walking up with her hands visible, like she was approaching a startled animal. "I wanted to talk." "You could have called," he said, surprised but not unkind. "I tried, but I figured if I showed up in person, you couldn't dodge me as easily." He glanced toward the school doors. "Finley's got 10 minutes left. Then I'll talk fast." She looked nervous, which wasn't a look he'd seen on her before. It made her seem younger, uncertain. "I'm leaving for London tomorrow, temporarily." I wasn't going to say anything, but then I realized that's exactly what I've always done: leave before things get complicated. "You just got here," Emerson said. "I didn't plan it. A board issue came up. I have to go deal with it personally." He looked at her closely. "And you came all the way here to tell me that?" "I came because I didn't want to disappear without saying goodbye. I've done that before to people who didn't deserve it." He folded his arms. "So you're doing damage control?" "No," she said, the word firm. "I'm trying not to screw this up before it even starts." He didn't respond immediately. "Then, you're not great at normal, are you?" "I built a wall around myself so high I didn't realize I was the only one standing behind it. Then I met you." She stepped closer. "I don't know what this is. I don't know how to be good at it, but I want to try." Finley came bounding out the doors just then, her face lighting up when she saw Savannah. "You came back." "I did," Savannah said, crouching to hug her, "but I have to go away for a little while." "Why?" "Work stuff." "Grown-up boring things." Finley nodded solemnly. "Will you come back?" "Yes," she said, glancing at Emerson. "If I'm still welcome." "You are," Finley said before Emerson could answer. Savannah stood, eyes still on Emerson. "Can we talk when I get back?" He nodded once. "Yeah." She leaned in, brushing her lips against his cheek, then turned and walked away without looking back. Emerson watched the car disappear into the traffic, then looked down at Finley, who was still staring at the empty street. "She looked sad," she said. "She's trying," Emerson replied. 2 weeks passed. During that time, Emerson kept busy with repair jobs. An apartment complex needed new wiring, a townhouse had a leaky roof, and someone's water heater exploded. He didn't ask questions when the hours stacked up. Keeping his hands busy kept his mind from circling back to the same place. But at night, once Finley was asleep, he found himself replaying that moment outside the school. The way Savannah had looked at him, not like a CEO used to getting her way, but like a woman trying to learn how to stay. Then one Friday morning, Wesley showed up again, this time at Emerson's apartment. "I hope this isn't a bad time," he said, glancing at the peeling paint near the doorframe. "It's never a good one," Emerson said flatly. "What's this about?" Wesley handed him a thick folder. "Savannah asked me to give you this." Emerson opened it slowly. Inside was a detailed proposal, not legalese, not contracts, just floor plans, renderings, a community center. "She wants to fund the build," Wesley explained. "Right here, something permanent, after-school programs, career workshops. Free childcare during emergencies." Emerson flipped through the pages. "Why me?" She said. "You know what matters." He looked up. "She's serious. She always is." Wesley turned to go, but paused. "She'll be back Sunday." Emerson stared at the folder long after the door closed. That Sunday, Finley sat at the kitchen table working through a puzzle when there was a knock. She looked up, eyes wide. That's her. I know it. Emerson opened the door. Savannah stood on the landing, hair windblown, cheeks flushed from the cold. Her coat was simpler this time. No car waited behind her. I didn't know if you'd answer, she said. You brought blueprints. I didn't know what else to give you. He stepped aside to let her in. She gave Finley a hug, then sat at the table across from Emerson. I've had a lot of time to think, she said. About how I measure value, about who I've been protecting myself from. Turns out it wasn't the world, it was me. He listened, not interrupting. I've been surrounded by people who say yes, who nod and smile and never challenge me. Then you walked in with your daughter and a busted dresser and didn't care who I was. I still don't, he said. Not in the way you mean, she smiled faintly. That's what makes you dangerous, he leaned forward. You don't need to buy your way into people's lives. I'm not trying to buy you. I'm trying to show you that I'm not walking away. Not again. He was quiet for a moment. You're not easy to read. I've made it that way on purpose. Then stop. He met her eyes. Let me read you. She stood, walked around the table, and took his hand. I didn't fall in love with you because you helped me carry furniture, she said. That just gave me an excuse to look twice. He pulled her close. What if I'm not built for your world? Then we build something new. He kissed her, and this time neither of them pulled away. Behind them, Finley clapped once. Told you there'd be kissing. Neither of them laughed, because in that moment, laughter would have broken the spell, and neither of them wanted to wake up. The first time Savannah stepped into Emerson's neighborhood community hall, her heels clicked against the chipped linoleum like they didn't belong. But she stayed. Even when the fluorescent lights flickered and someone's kid ran past with a popsicle melting down their arm. Emerson was at the front, rolling out a folding table for a parents' meeting. He didn't look surprised to see her, just nodded, like he'd expected she'd show up eventually. She walked over, setting down a box of printed flyers. I brought materials for the new after-school program. Thought I'd start helping instead of just writing checks. He glanced at the box. You sure you're ready for snack duty and crayon fights? I've survived boardrooms with hedge fund billionaires. I think I can handle 6-year-olds with glue sticks. And you're not here to prove anything. No, she said. I'm here because I want to build something that doesn't disappear when the money stops. He unfolded the last chair. Then you're in the right place. The room filled fast parents, volunteers, a handful of local organizers. Emerson introduced Savannah without ceremony, just her first name and a quiet mention that she was helping with the center. No fanfare, no titles. Afterward, as the chairs were being stacked and the leftover juice boxes tossed, a woman with tired eyes and a baby on her hip came up. You're the one starting the job readiness courses, right? Savannah nodded. We're launching in 2 weeks. I'll be teaching the first one myself. The woman looked stunned. You're teaching it? I've built 4 companies from scratch. I think that makes me qualified. The woman blinked, then offered a tentative smile. Maybe you could teach me how not to panic every time I open my bills. Savannah's voice softened. That'll be the first lesson. Outside, the air smelled like late spring and car exhaust. Emerson walked beside her, his hands tucked in the pockets of his jacket. You handled that well, he said. I'm used to people looking at me like I'm a headline, not a person. You didn't look like a headline in there. No, I looked like someone who doesn't know how to fold tablecloths, he laughed, shaking his head. You'll learn. She stopped walking, turning to face him. You've let me into your world. Now I want to show you mine, he raised an eyebrow. We already did the gala thing. I'm not talking about events. I'm talking about the part of my life that no one sees. The part I've kept to myself because I didn't trust it with anyone. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, Okay, show me. 2 days later, they drove up the coast in a borrowed van, one that Finley had insisted on naming Blueberry because the radio only played old jazz. Savannah wore jeans and a hoodie. No makeup. Her hair was braided over one shoulder. The destination wasn't a resort or a penthouse, it was a modest coastal property tucked behind a bluff, the kind of place you didn't find unless someone showed it to you. Savannah unlocked the gate and led him into a small house with wide windows and books stacked along the walls. There was a piano in the corner, untouched, and a framed photo of a woman with the same dark eyes as Savannah. "My mother left me this place," she said quietly. "It's the only thing I never turned into a business asset." He walked to the window, looking out at the sea. "You come here often, only when I forget how to breathe." He turned to her. "And you brought me here because I finally don't want to be alone when I remember." They stood there in silence, the ocean stretching out in front of them like a promise. Later, as they sat on the porch, Finley curled up on a blanket with a book while Savannah poured them both coffee. "I used to think love was just another transaction," she said. "A series of calculated risks. And now it feels like something I don't want to quantify, just trust." Emerson reached for her hand. "I've never had anything last, not until you." A breeze lifted the edge of her sleeve. "I'm used to people trying to survive me, not stay. I'm not going anywhere." The next morning, Savannah woke to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Finley humming off key in the kitchen. She padded out barefoot, finding Emerson at the stove, flipping batter like he'd done it 1,000 times. "You're up early," she said, voice thick with sleep. "Finley wanted to surprise you. I just followed orders." Finley beamed. "She gets the first one, I already decided." Savannah sat, watching them, her chest tight with a feeling she hadn't named before. Not longing, not fear, just peace. When they returned to the city, Savannah made her first public appearance in front of cameras, not as a CEO, but as a guest speaker at the launch of the community center. She wore jeans, no podium, just a microphone and a story about a girl who'd grown up believing success meant solitude. Emerson stood in the back, arms folded, pride written across every line of his face. After the applause, she stepped down, walked straight to him, and pulled him close. "I'm done hiding," she said. He kissed her in front of everyone. Not a grand performance, just a quiet, steady promise. That night, she handed him a small velvet box, not with a ring, but with a key. He opened it slowly. "What's this?" "To the beach house," she said. "It's ours now, if you want it." He looked at her, then down at the key, then back again. "I want all of it," he said. "You." "The girl who forgot how to breathe. The woman who taught me how to trust again." She wrapped her arms around his neck. "Then take it." They didn't need a wedding to seal it. They had a daughter sleeping down the hall, a house by the sea, and a city where they'd built something no money could buy. Love that stayed. Savannah stared at the mirror in the community center's new office, adjusting the navy scarf around her neck. Her reflection looked softer now, less guarded, more lived in. She wasn't preparing for a press conference or a shareholder meeting. She was helping organize the first career mentorship day for single parents, and she had flour on her elbow from the pancakes she and Finley made that morning. Emerson appeared in the doorway holding 2 mugs, one of them chipped. "You're going to be late for your own event if you keep fussing." She took the mug from his hand. "This is the first one. I want it to matter." "It already does. You showed up." "That's more than most. I used to think showing up meant flying in and writing a check." He leaned against the doorframe, watching her closely. "You're the reason half the people in this building believe in second chances. I didn't expect to find mine in a neighborhood with broken sidewalks. That's what makes it real." She reached for his hand. "Let's go before I talk myself out of speaking again." They made their way downstairs, where the small auditorium buzzed with voices, strollers, and the smell of coffee. Volunteers handed out name tags, and kids colored at long tables while parents mingled with mentors from Savannah's network graphic designers, marketing specialists, tradespeople, and small business owners. Savannah stepped onto the makeshift stage as the chatter quieted. She didn't use a podium. She didn't need one. "I used to believe that building something meant building it alone, but the truth is, nothing worth keeping stands without people willing to carry it with you. Today isn't just about finding jobs. It's about finding the strength to keep going, even when you feel like you're the only one pushing the cart uphill." Emerson stood near the wall, arms crossed, eyes steady. Finley sat in the front row between 2 older volunteers, her legs swinging under the chair, beaming. After the event, Savannah sat on one of the folding chairs near the back, her heels kicked off, her eyes half closed. "You didn't talk yourself out of it," Emerson said, setting a bottle of water beside her. "I almost did," she murmured. Then I saw Finley's face. He crouched in front of her, resting a hand on her knee. You ever think about what's next? I spent my whole life chasing next. This is the first time I want to stay where I am. He tilted his head. Even if it means trading boardrooms for PTA meetings, if the PTA has you in it, then yes. He smiled, but it was quiet and full of something deeper. I've been thinking about us, about what we're building. What about it? There's no blueprint for this. No guarantee. But I want to try anyway. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope, worn at the edges. I was going to wait, she said, but since we're talking about building. I bought the building next door. His eyes widened. The one with the old bakery. I want to turn it into a youth arts space. Music, writing, dance. The kind of place I would have needed when I was 14 and angry at the world. He stood slowly. You're serious. I don't do things halfway anymore. He looked at her for a long moment. Then I want to be the one who renovates it. She blinked. You do that. I don't want to just be part of your life, Savannah. I want to build in it. She stood and wrapped her arms around his neck. Then let's start knocking down walls. That night, they sat on the rooftop of the community center, a string of solar lights casting a soft glow overhead. Finley was asleep inside on a beanbag, curled up with her favorite book. Do you ever miss that old life? Emerson asked as Savannah leaned against his shoulder. Sometimes, she admitted. The ease of it, the control, but it was lonely. I don't miss that part. He kissed the top of her head. You're not alone anymore. No, she said. I'm finally home. A few months later, the building next door opened its doors as the Whitlow Center for Creative Futures. The name was painted by a group of local teens on the side of the brick wall in vibrant colors. Emerson had overseen the entire renovation, refusing to let anyone else touch the foundation. At the opening ceremony, Finley cut the ribbon with oversized scissors, wearing a sparkly pink dress and a plastic crown. Afterward, Savannah pulled Emerson aside into the newly finished music room, where sunlight filtered through skylights onto polished floors. I have something for you, she said, handing him a small wooden box. Inside was a set of handmade blueprints, each one drawn in colored pencil and labeled by Finley. One showed a house with a big backyard. Another had a garden with a swing. The third was a drawing of the three of them holding hands, standing in front of a house with a red door. She told me she wants us to build it, Savannah said. Together. Emerson closed the box carefully. Then I guess we better get started. They moved into a small craftsman house on a tree-lined street a few months later. Savannah planted a lemon tree in the backyard. Emerson built a swing from reclaimed wood. Finley insisted on painting the door red. On Friday nights, they made dinner together. On Sundays, they walked to the local farmer's market and argued over which cheese was best. There were no private jets, no gala lights, just love, steady and unshakable. And when Savannah finally looked in the mirror one morning and saw a woman who wasn't performing, pretending, or shielding herself, just living, she turned to the man beside her and whispered, "Thank you for waiting for me to catch up." He kissed her temple. "Thank you for choosing to stay." They didn't need vows or an aisle, they had a life, and they lived all of it together.